Dr. Kosalendra, shall we start?
Madam, please start, madam.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Dr. Kosal?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am.
Start the program, sir.
Yes. We'll start. Good evening, all. My name is Kosalendra, Associate Professor of ECE, SciTech Puttur. On behalf of the Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Siddharth Institute of Engineering and Technology, Puttur, we extend a warm welcome to all the delegates, faculty members, research scholars, and student participants from various reputed institutions across the country to this Atal Academy-sponsored 2-week faculty development program on IoT-driven wearable devices for healthcare and defense applications. Before we start, here are some of the important instructions to all the participants. All participants are requested to change your Zoom username as your registration ID - your name. Please note that 80% attendance is required separately for both online and offline mode. It is the minimum eligibility of getting Atal FDP e-certificate. And there will be 2 multiple choice question tests, which will be conducted at the end of each mode. And 80% score is the minimum eligibility of getting Atal FDP e-certificate. So all these details are posted on the chat box, and also it is shared with you on the official group, requesting all the participants, please note these details. I now request Dr. R. Gomalavalli Madam, Professor of EC Department, to please present the welcome address.
Gomalavalli, madam.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. R. Gomalavalli, Professor of EC Department, SciTech. With the blessings of Almighty, I feel immense pleasure to welcome you all for this AICT Atal Academy sponsored 2-week hybrid faculty development program on IoT-driven wearable devices for healthcare and defense applications. I am delighted to welcome our resource person, Mr. Murasoliselvan Karnanithy, Manager, Intel Malaysia. I heartily welcome you, sir. With gratitude, I would like to welcome our energetic personality, our chairman, Dr. Ashok Raju, sir. His innovative ideas transforms this institution into a fantastic educational resource for pupils. I would like to offer my regards to our respected principal, SciTech, Dr. Chandrasekhar Reddy Garu, sir. I thank your generous support for this FDP. A warm welcome to you, sir. With due respect, I extend my warm welcome to Dr. Janathanan Rajugaru, Principal of SISTEC. Sir, thanks for your courteous presence. I welcome you, sir. It is my pleasure to greet Dr. P.G. Gopinath, sir, our dynamic Vice Principal. You have been a steadfast supporter for all our endeavors. Welcome, sir. Next, I heartily welcome our motivator, our HOD, Dr. P. Ratana Kamala, HOD of EC Department, SciTech. Welcome, ma'am. Her intelligent suggestions and ideas have truly helped us to improve our caliber. I would like to welcome all head of the departments from their valuable presence at this greatest moment. With gratitude, I welcome our coordinator, Dr. R. Prem Kumar, and co-coordinator Dr. Sri Priya. I thank them for their initiatives. With gratitude, I welcome our organizing team members and EC department faculties for their cooperation to achieve the grand success of this FDP. Thanks for your untiring efforts, and I welcome you all. I extend my warm welcome to all the faculty members from various departments of our college to this wonderful FDP. Once again, I would like to extend my heartfelt congratulations and warm welcome to all of the participants who have attended here. On behalf of the management, the principal, all of our college's faculties and students, I extend my best wishes to all of these attendees who will gain more knowledge and will be more geared toward their goals by attending this event. I assure you that this program will be beneficial to everyone in everywhere. With a due affection, I would like to welcome my dear faculty members and staff members who have worked together as a team with the spirit, involvement, and enthusiasm to organize this function in an efficient manner. Once again, I welcome you all connected here. Have a pleasant day. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for the great start. Now, with the blessings of Almighty, our student Sahiti is going to sing the prayer song. Now the mic is yours. Please carry on.
गणनायकाय गणदैवताय गणाध्यक्षाय धीमहि गुणशरीराय गुणमण्डिताय गुणेशानाय धीमहि गुणातीताय गुणाधीशाय गुणप्रविष्टाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय बालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय बालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि.
Thank you, Ma, for your angelic voice to start the program. Now I request Dr. C. Priya, ma'am, Professor of ECE Department, SciTech, co-coordinator of this ATAL FTP, to give the speech about the ATAL FTP. Please, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Good evening to everybody present here virtually. I am Dr. Priya, working as a professor in ECE Department. With the blessings of Almighty, I feel very happy to share few things about this FTP with you all. First of all, I thank AICTE and ATAL Academy for giving this opportunity to our institution to conduct FTP on IoT-driven wearable devices for healthcare and defense applications. ATAL means AICTE Training and Learning Academy, facilitates through trainings and workshops on various trust areas and emerging areas to upgrade the knowledge and skills of faculty members of AICTE approved institutions. The objectives of ATAL FTP is to support technical institutions in fostering research, innovation, and entrepreneurship through training. The research developed in the biosensor area is certainly increasing. The scope of study in the publication period 1972 to 2014 using the word biosensor revealed an exponential trend in the number of publications in this field. In the same temporal period, the study revealed that the USA remains as the most important country in terms of research in biosensor, followed by China and Germany. However, if the period is restricted to last 5 years, the study reveals that China's influence in this field is gaining momentum, and countries like South Korea and India are increasingly researching in this area with a higher number of publications being released in this field. So we plan to conduct this FTP in this domain so that we can gain more knowledge in this field. Biosensor, as we know, it consists of biological element or bioreceptor, that is enzyme, antibiotic or nucleic acid, and a transducer. The component behaves like a sensor and react with analyte to generate electrical, optical, or thermal signals. Biosensors are employed in applications such as disease monitoring, drug discovery, and detection of pollutants and detection of disease-causing microorganisms and markers that are indicators of the disease in bodily fluids such as blood, urine, saliva, and sweat. Biosensor is an emerging research area. As a teaching professionals, we need to update our knowledge and skills continuously for that. For that, we need to work on real-time application to enhance quality of work and research. We should get aware about emerging areas and trust areas of research through this type of FTBs and workshops. Regarding our FTB, we are going to conduct both online and offline mode. Through online mode, our respected resource persons from all over the country will energize all the participants through their presentation. And it will be very useful to the entire faculty community to enhance their skills. In offline session, we are going to have hands-on session on the same domain. I request all the participants to attend the FTP regularly, and I hope everybody will get the certificate from Atal Academy. My heartfelt wishes to all. Stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I request our beloved HOD of ECE and the convener of this event, Dr. P. Ratnakamala, Madam, HOD of ECE SciTech, to please give the inaugural address. Please, ma'am.
Honorable Chairman, respected resource person Murasoliselvan garu, beloved principals of SciTech and SysTech, a very good morning, dear participants. A very happy evening to one and all. At the outset, I would like to congratulate the coordinator and co-coordinator of this 2-week hybrid faculty development program, Dr. Prem Kumar and Dr. C. Priya, for making all the initiatives and bringing this particular program into life today. Thank you. And with all due gratitude and respect, I would like to thank our chairman, Dr. K. Ashok Raju garu, for helping us in all the way to arrange all these things whenever we request him for. And also I would like to thank the Atal under AICTE for granting us this seminar. And as informed by Dr. C. Priya, so this particular concept has been one of the thrust areas, which is widely spread and has to be learnt a lot. So I hope all the participants, you will be gaining a lot of information from all of our resource persons. And as you can see in the program schedule, we have many number of resource persons, reputed people, where we have gathered from all the industry and reputed hospitals to give us a very good knowledge, and hope you will have a beautiful knowledge sharing from them. And I request all of you even to attend the offline 5 days FDP along with this online and get benefited. So I thank everyone for giving me this opportunity. And now I would like to request Principal of SysTech, Dr. M. Janardhan Raju sir, to address the gathering.
Thank you so much. Good evening, all. Respected Principal, coordinators, conveners of the program. I think EC department is program conducting with the support AICTE, all that organizations. Also with successful give it to all the participants. So thank you so much, Department of C and for organizing wonderful programs for faculty to give to share their knowledge.
Hello, Nisha, continue.
Right, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. It is an immensely pleasant moment to invite our Honorable Chairman, Dr. Konduru Ashok Raju garu, who is an educationalist, a visionary, and an extraordinary human being, to please present the presidential address to this vibrant gathering. Sir, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Principals of both the colleges, Principal SciTech and SysTech, Head of the Department Ratnakamala garu, Professor Ratnakamala garu, and other coordinators, co-coordinators, and organizers. Thank you very much. And I heartily congratulate each and everyone for initiating this beautiful program. This Atal Academy thanks to Atal Academy for supporting this type of FDPs. So the topic is IoT-driven wearable devices for the healthcare and defense applications. This is a good opportunity for all the participants. Please spend time, attend each and every session of this FDP and get knowledge from resource persons. And it will help you to get into the research mode and know something and find out something. So there you have to be very focused. Once you learn something from resource persons, then you also initiate to know full-fledged this thing, because thanks to Government of India for supporting this type of projects. Earlier, it was not like this, because even defense applications and all, they used to give only particular teams and committees. Now it is open for everyone. And this is really Government of India's initiation supporting academicians and researchers. So there, coming days also, there will be a high focus on research. And earlier there was a think tanks in universities. So now government is seriously, actively initiating those think tanks in academic institutions. So that will help for the growth of India. So your role is very important. So please do not take it easy, and please concentrate on this each and everything, and look into research orientation and add something to the development of our country. So really, it's not an ordinary program. It looks like that. See the content and to see the intensity in the subject also. Then only you can participate anxiously. So there, please be confident and participate each and every session, and complete it successfully. I wish all participants a very great this thing, and I'll hearty congratulations to everyone. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Pleasure is ours to have you for this inaugural session, and we are always motivated by your words. And now proceed for the formal vote of thanks for this session. And again, myself, Dr. Kotsalendra from EC department, will be presenting the formal vote of thanks. On behalf of the Department of ECE, Siddharth Institute of Engineering and Technology, we'd like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to all the resource persons, delegates, faculty members, research scholars, and student participants. This 2-week hybrid mode faculty development program on IoT-driven wearable devices for healthcare and defense applications is sponsored by the AICTE Training and Learning Atal Academy. Our heartfelt gratitude to our sponsor, AICTE. We thank our Honorable Chairman of Siddharth Group of Institutions, Dr. K. Ashok Raju sir, our principals of SciTech and SysTech, Dr. K. Chandrasekhar Reddy Garu and Dr. M. Janardana Raj Garu, for being a constant motivators. We thank the co-patron and our vice principal of Siddharth Institute of Engineering and Technology, Dr. P.G. Gopinath Garu, for his constant support and motivation. We thank the convener of this event, Dr. P. Ratnakamala Madam, head of the Department of ECE, and also the president of Institutions Innovation Council, for her solid support and timely monitoring in every aspect as we grow. We thank the coordinators, the organizing committee members, especially Dr. R. Prem Kumar, who has been instrumental in flying this event, and also to our co-coordinator, Dr. C. Priya Madam, for taking this in a better way, and also to all the members of organizing committee at the Department of ECE, Siddharth Institute of Engineering and Technology. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Now, immediately the session 1 is going to start. The session 1 topic is about IoT and its interfacing techniques. Before starting the session, now I call upon Dr. Srilata ma'am, Professor of ECE Department, to give the introduction speech about our resource person. Please, ma'am.
Thank you. I am Dr. T. Srilata, Professor of ECE Department. A very good evening and warm welcome to all the dignitaries and participants registered for this program. I feel privileged to introduce today's resource person, Murasoliselvan Karnanidhi Garu, Manager, Intel, Malaysia. He completed his Bachelor of Engineering in Electronics and Communication in 2005 from Anna University, Chennai. He has totally 15 years of experience in technical leaderships, SOC development, IoT, DSP, audio video codec algorithms, embedded software development, project and business management for the world's most respected semiconductor companies from USA, China, UK, South Korea, and Malaysia. He headed the embedded and IoT technical delivery team with great learning in building long-term client relationships, acquiring new customers, maintaining and expanding relationships with strategically important customers from various domains like semiconductor, automotive, public safety, healthcare, industrial automation, and participating in various smart city initiatives. He also worked on audio firmware development, codecs optimization, multimedia frameworks, audio, video, pre-post processing, transcoding, bootloaders, kernel device driver development, and porting. Being a relationship manager, he managed P&L for the $10 million business. He acted as industry advisory panel member for the Bachelor of Engineering Technology in Applied Electronics program, which is offered at University Kuala Lumpur campus for academic session from 2019 to 2024. We feel privileged to have you in this Atal sponsored faculty program, sir. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. And it's a great session. So overall, we will be talking more on IoT-driven wearable devices for healthcare and defense applications. So second. Yeah. Okay, so on this session one, so I'll be walking through on IoT and its interfacing techniques. So overall agenda perspective, I will cover a little bit on IoT background and what is exactly in IoT, what are the examples around us, and what are the different elements of IoT, how we can go a little bit deeper into those different components of IoT. And we'll also talk about what are the different interfacing techniques for different applications. And I'll touch upon on the future trends and some of the applications in the first session. Followed by the second session, I'll talk more on the examples and product development life cycles and all those things. So before I deep dive into an IoT, so I just want to make sure that I'm giving you a little bit background about what is an embedded system, right? So because in a day-to-day life, we have been using a lot of our embedded systems. It could be the watches what we are using, and when we when we see our televisions, remote controls and refrigerators in your home. And today everywhere we have set-top boxes, and in our childhood we might have played on the video games. Much more examples I just listed out here. And from a communication perspective, a lot of mobile phones and in every commuting systems, it could be our cars and flights and trains. Everywhere we can see there are there are components integrated, and there is a standard applications which does the job for us in a standalone fashion, right? So all these examples are telling us one thing, right? Most of our life is kind of bridged with an embedded system components, right? Now, while those embedded systems become a localized system, what does it mean is your remote can work for your TV, but it cannot control the TV which is in a different floor, or the distance at which it can cover is very minimal, right? So that becomes kind of localized systems, right? So little more into an embedded system, right? So how these embedded systems has been built, right? So it's a combination of something on a hardware and control those hardware using some of the software programs. That program can be monolithic, which is meant for, say for example, it can be a single threaded application, it can be a multi-threaded application, depends on the nature of applications. But these software is going to control on the hardware, which is kind of dead when we are not using any of the software, right? So it is going to be an embedded system always is going to be a combination of hardware and software. And again, this is not going to handle multiple things at a time. It's going to be for a fixed programmable, which means fixed functionality or a particular functionality, right? So that is what we call it as an embedded system. Now, how it has evolved as an IoT, right? So how come an IoT evolved? And so it's not the new technology. Maybe it is penetrating very, very fast in the recent era, but then it is there from 1999, right? Kevin Aston was the first person who started utilizing or using this Internet of Things, which is an IoT, right? So just imagine few things that when we drink your coffee in the evening or in the morning, what will happen if your mobile phone tells you the temperature of your coffee, right? Or when you approach your house, or when you touch the same embedded systems, say for example your remote control. Think of a situation that your remote control gives you your body temperature whenever you touch your remote control. So, and let's say when you wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth, and there you can, if your toothbrush is going to give you right, if your toothbrush is going to give you your glucose level in your body, that's going to be a very interesting use cases, right? And similarly, whenever you open your door handle, what will happen if your door handle, today a lot of fingerprint sensors are there in your mobile phones, but then if your door handle tells you what is your pulse level, that's going to be interesting use cases, right? So what is it indirectly telling you? That how can we interrelate the things? How can we use output of one system to the input of the other system, or output of one system to control the other system, right? So that is where it comes as a term Internet of Things, where the things which were not connected previously, right? Meaning the things are localized today through the internet era, how can we connect whatever things which we are seeing around us? How can we put together? How can we, integrate using common term, which is internet? Right? So that is what the Internet of Things is going to talk about in the coming session. Right? So take an example that, today we all use umbrella, but that's just to protect us from the heat or from rain, right? What if your umbrella touched you before you goes out of your house to your college or to your school or to your office? If your umbrella tells you, hey, it is going to rain today, can you take it with me? Can you take me with you? Or if you are interested to take the umbrella, what if your umbrella tells you that, you don't need to take me today because it's not going to be that hot or it is not going to be that rainy. So indirectly, your umbrella is going to interact with your local weather forecast system. And it is going to emit you the light of different colors. Based on that, you can take a call whether you want to take this along with you or not. So indirectly here, you are interfacing your umbrella with your weather forecast systems through the internet, and also your localized emitting system or lighting system, which is going to tell you that what exactly you need to do. So it makes your life easy. I mean, IoT is not just about IoT is not just about making your life easy. I'm just giving you some relevant examples so that you can correlate with the things, what you see, what you use in your day-to-day life. Right? So what else it can do? So your IoT, it can do anything in the world. It can do wonders, right? Whenever you touch your door can give you warm welcome by identifying you as a person, or you as a known person, right? Or when you start from your college back to your home, you can trigger your coffee maker in your home to make the coffee ready for you. Or through today we have Alexa, to Siri on your mobile phones. It can control, even in the cars, we can control your entire system through your voice commands, right? Your laundry basket or your fridge can alert that, okay, there is the milk is going to get over. Can you, it can place the order automatically. So probably your laundry basket, whenever it is filled, it can alert you by saying that it's time to wash your clothes. So, I mean, I can list a lot more examples. So these are the, some of the examples which can make our life easy, which can make your life interesting, while there are a lot of other use cases which can do a lot of industrial automation and many more enterprise level applications, right, through the IoT. So let me speed up a little bit. So how does it happening, right? What are the major components of this IoT? So hopefully now you know what exactly an IoT, how is it different from an embedded system. Say for example, in an embedded system, we talked about your device hardware, and then there is a software combination. It is an embedded system, and it can do some functionality for you. Now, when we connect these embedded system, through various communication protocols, we talk about different communication interfacing protocols in the coming sessions, and how you can control these devices, right? It's not only one device. There are n number of devices going to be talking to each other, right? So that is where you have your communication and cloud platform, and then your applications for you to interact with the devices or to know the details, right? So it can be any devices. So through the IoT, you are making any things to talk to each other or control each other or share the communication details, share some details each other, right? So now those things can act as the smart devices now, right? Say, in this case, how is it going to, make your things to be smart? So, so that is what we have as a communication protocols, right? So, so once your devices can talk to each other, what else can do, or how they can talk, how can they control? So that is where we have different components. One is called sensors. Sensors is going to sense or anything which interacts with the environment, which the human, that is what the sensor is going to be. It is going to send some elements and give it to your devices, right? The actuators is going to control some of the things. Say for example, whenever there is a whenever there is a less light in your room, switch on your lights. So that is actuating your lights through the actuators, right? And many more interfaces. Now, so the sensors can collect your data. These actuators can trigger you some actions, right? So the sensors, through the sensors, you can control, you can collect a lot of data. Now, once you have a data, what else you can do? So you can do a lot of data analytics, right? You can extract some meaningful information from those data. Otherwise, it's of no use, right? If you start collecting the data, but it is not used in a proper way, then it is of no use. So overall, IoT is an ecosystem where you are connecting different endpoints, different components of this ecosystem, and then making some real useful scenarios, right? So that is what IoT in the nutshell about. So I'm just showing it, whatever I was discussing in the previous slide, with a little bit pictorial way so that you can understand what is happening here. So these are the various components, right? Or it can be your sensors, can be your temperature sensor, your waste bin, level of your waste bin, your light level, and then, or your cameras can be your sensors. Your car can have multiple sensors. Your street lights can have a sensor. Your parking can have a sensor. So different sensor components. So when these components connect to certain device, that we call it as edge devices in an IoT world, through the connectivity protocols, it is being connected. All these sensor data are accumulated into a cloud platform, or these sensors being controlled using this cloud platform. And then, you have your applications, or you massage this data here, and then create some meaningful insights to be displayed to the user, so that you can showcase some events, you can bring in some dashboards about your production level. You can show various data interpretations, and you can add a lot more plugins, so that as a user you can customize whatever you want. So these are the major elements on IoT. So what is it about? On sensor or actuators, there are edge devices, there are connectivity protocols, there is a cloud platform. And there is the application side of it. The application can run in your desktop, mobile phone, or tablets. It can be anywhere, right? It can send out a SMS. SMS can be your applications, but it depends on the use cases. So you can have multiple components, going into this ecosystem. So what if these sensors could not connect to the cloud platform using this protocol? What else you can do? It's, say for example, your mobile phones, earlier they don't have any 3G, 4G connectivity, right? Or earlier they don't have they don't have a Wi-Fi connectivity. They are all not smartphones. Today we have various connectivity components integrated into a mobile phone, so it can directly talk to your telephone towers, or it can directly talk to your Wi-Fi modems in your house. The same goes to edge devices. If the edge devices has the existing connectivity, then they can directly push the data to the cloud. If there is no connectivity, then we need to enable them. We need to enable your localized system with these additional components. I will talk about this more and more, but there are various components are there, various connectivity protocols are there. I'll talk you through on that, right? So what else it can do? Like whatever examples I talked about is a simple use cases, but how these enterprise level applications. So one interesting use case you might have heard about is in cricket, right? Today every player need to analyze their batting style, bowling speed, or a fielding strength, right? Or the opponent team wants to analyze, how the other batsman or a bowler is going to react to the situation. So what Anil Kumble has done, Anil Kumble we know as a cricketer, but what he has done is he has a company which collects all the data through the stickers that are sticked on the bats for the players. So whenever they swing the bat, they can easily predict that, okay, what could be their swing style, or what they need to improve from a coaching perspective. Everything is kind of controlled or collected through this. Now, through this, what else they can do? They can do a lot more things to enhance, to engage the audience, right? So if before the ball hits to 4, if advertisement company can predict that with this bat swing, the ball is going to hit 6 or 4, then they can use those 3 seconds or 4 seconds to prepare their advertisement, to prepare the audience and engagement, right? So there are a lot of use cases can be generated. So here in this case, they paired with Microsoft Cloud Partners, and then they created this IoT use case for them to present different analytics for the users, right, for the players. So yeah, in short, we discussed many use cases, but if you see in the nutshell, we have a sensors, we have actuators, we have edge devices, and we have different IoT protocols. You can see here, you might have used in your day-to-day lives as a Bluetooth for listening to your audio, or connecting to your smartwatches, and Wi-Fi for connecting your mobile phones and laptops. But and there are other IoT protocols like NFC, RFID. So today, when you cross your toll gate, so you're automatically getting detected on the bills, right? So and depends on the distance at which it can cover, depends on the signal strength, or depends on the how much data it can carry. Based on that, these IoT protocols or IoT connectivity protocols will vary. So we'll talk a little bit more into coming slides, right? Say for example, today, recently, you might have heard that there is a 5G spectrum, action happened, and all the companies, including Jio, Vodafone, and Airtel, every company has a spectrum allocated for them. Why they are moving from 3G to 4G to 5G, right? So they're going to use that bandwidth to stream high-speed data. Your movie can be downloaded in a fraction of a second, right? Your doctors can consult the patients through the 5G network, because it is going to be more real time, right? So there are n number of use cases can be generated when we vary the different use cases or different IoT protocols. Now, what happens if there is no internet connectivity? So, there are villages today, including mine, that there is no connectivity at all. What we can do when there is no connectivity? That is where we have RF, there is a protocols like LoRa. LoRa is nothing but a long range protocol where without an internet, the signals can penetrate into 12 kilometers. You can imagine, theoretically, right? Practically it may be less, but so every 12 kilometers, 10 to 12 kilometers, you can have one modem with the internet connectivity, and then all these devices can talk to each other using LoRa, and then they can communicate back to any cloud system, right? And there are much more IoT protocols called NB-IoT. It's a narrowband IoT. So including Vodafone, today they are testing it in your telecom networks. But It is already in use in Singapore and many other countries. So that is nothing but using your existing telecom servers, but it is going to consume very less battery. So today, when you switch on your 3G, 4G and keep watching YouTube or Facebook or some other social media, it is going to drain your battery in 1 or 2 hours. So when you use those protocols for your IoT devices, then you are going to end up replacing the batteries or charging your edge devices very frequently, which is not the feasible use cases, right? So when you dump or when you have your sensors integrated into a big farm environment where you cannot have a power, feed into the sensors every minute, there can be a solar system, but we need to ensure that we are making sure that the devices, consumes very, very low battery, but those signals reaches even to the underground level, right? So those are the, little bit characteristics of choosing the different protocol, choosing the different sensors. We'll talk through that in the coming sessions. And, there are a lot of cloud platform providers. We'll also talk about it. Some of the examples I just highlighted here. Say, for example, AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, is one of the top cloud platforms today in across the globe. And then IBM has a Bluemix, and Microsoft has its own Azure, and Google has its own cloud platforms, and many more, right? So there are private cloud providers, there are public cloud providers. So there are various, components can be used, and there is no need of keeping it tightly coupled, right? So that is what I'm calling it out as a summary here. So in summary, it is going to give you, different connectivity through the different connectivity protocols. And then once it comes to the cloud engine, what happens? So there are rules engines, there are way to control your devices, and then there are storages. So through that, you can process your data and bring it into an application. So now major, components which you need to be very much aware about is security, because you are exposing your devices to be connected to each other. So anybody can tap into the network, anybody can tamper the network. So what happens from a security perspective, right? So that we will also talk about it. So one thing which I want to highlight is today, every SoC used when I say SoC, it's a system on chip. So like Intel and many other companies, AMD and Samsung, Qualcomm, many companies are developing their SoCs today. So at the SoC level, there are securities. At the communication level, there are securities enabled, right? And then there's an application level or a end user side, there are security ways to enable it. So everywhere, every layer, from a development perspective, we are considering security as a major constraint so that we won't expose any of our data, right? So that's it. I also given you guys some of the internal architecture, how the edge nodes is designed, how the gateways are designed. Gateways are nothing but when the devices are not having a connectivity, then that becomes an intermediate gateway for you to connect the not connected devices to be connected with the cloud systems, right? So these are the different architectures of your edge nodes and gateways and cloud platform, right? So I have given from a scalability perspective how your edge device, say for example, you want to measure your temperature data, or you want to measure your sound level in your room. So nutshell, your sensor might vary, but your hardcore, your controller, your communication media, and then general components like a battery charger, the OLED, which is a display, small display, and then there is a battery indicator, there is a communication side. So rest of the things will remain same. So that is where the scalability comes into picture, because you're going to reuse by just changing the sensors, right, for a different use cases, so that your deployment will be very faster. Your users can be holded for a various problem statements. And same way, your gateway will have a bunch of protocols supported, so that whenever this edge devices have a different IoT protocols used, your gateway can still use those protocols. Say for example, LoRa, I explained it. So Semtech is one of the company which manufactures lot of LoRa gateways or LoRa edge devices, and Zigbee, it's more of a short distance protocol, and Bluetooth is shorter than the Zigbee. And Wi-Fi, we know that today there are Wi-Fi gigahertz, Wi-Fi 6. Many companies are working on to extend the speed of it and to extend the distance it can cover. And of course, we have a GPS through the 3G, 4G, and many other systems through all the data connectivity. Everything is there. So if you see internally, there are specific to IoT specific protocols. All these are sensor interfaces. Let's say some of your sensors can use the serial peripheral interface. Some of your sensors can use the UART as a TX, RX, some of the protocols like I2C, and many, many more, right? Depends on your sensor type. You can choose these IO interfaces. And majorly, you can see these are the various IoT protocols. Say, for example, today in your browser, if you type HTTP, so that is for your browser to stream a lot more data. But your HTTP is going to consume a lot more power and data. So that is where we have a protocol called Mosquito, right? We have a message queue telemetry transport, right? So I'll talk about the MQTT later. So MQTT, just to give you one example, so you might have seen your Facebook, Messenger and WhatsApp. So how they can send and receive a messages very fastly, right? So that is all using MQTT, which is to give you a context. If HTTP is for a web browsers and it takes 10 seconds to load, for example, you can send millions of messages using MQTT, right? So you might have heard about your OSI layers, right? Open standard interface layers. So each layer has a different, protocol interfaces. Some of them on the physical layer, some of them are data link layer, some of them are transport layer. So whatever we study in the engineering side, we literally use it in the communication side of your industry. So that's the huge benefit of being into electronics and communication engineering, and where you can real time experience those things what we have studied in our world. And there is a CoAP, a constrained application protocol, which is a little bit different from MQTT. I'll talk through it. One thing I want to highlight here is the OTA, which is the over-the-air update. So we deploy those devices, we deploy those gateways, how we can update, how we can update the firmware, right? So that is all happening through the over-the-air. Today, if your fridge has the connectivity, how the fridge manufacturers can stream the data or can control your firmware to be updated, right? Today, your mobile phones, you can get an update by going into your settings and other things, get an update and update it, right? Meaning get the updated firmware and update it. So similarly, these edge devices has this OTA module, over-the-air module for you to update it. And then I mentioned about your, crypto, which is a encrypted ways to encrypt the communication data. Then it's a secure boot. When you boot your gateways, how we can securely boot. There are a lot of security constraints. And one thing I can call it out is a root of trust, which is nothing but inside every processor, there is a ROT module. Through that, users can protect from anybody to tampering your data, tampering your processor, right? So overall, I talked about sensors and gateways and applications. So I'm going a little bit depth into each component of it, so that you will know how we can interface each of these components, right? So sensors or actuators. These are the various companies you can imagine in the world. I mean, just an example, but there are much more list of companies available. Varies from a different use cases. Some of them are inertial, environmental, which is for air, humidity, pressure, temperature, UV, and there's an inertial, which is to measure which level of building I am in and then what direction I am in. There are, and like today, every mobile phone has the accelerometer, gyroscope, and everything, right? So if you sleep and turn the phone, you can see it in the landscape mode and much more. Everything is controlled through the gyroscope and accelerometer combination today. And then there are you know, from a temperature perspective or from your healthcare perspective, there are sensors like your thermal IR sensors, and today in the automotive world, radar is widely used to see the distance between the cars, and you know, combination of radar and cameras acting as the very powerful, you know, safety standard in today's autonomous driving and many automated vehicles, right? So Tesla today uses a lot of sensors today, you know, in combination with the camera, you know, to drive the autonomous driving across the globe, and you know, many things which I can talk through. But all these sensors, as I mentioned in the previous slides, how they can connect to the processor through these GPIOs or through the, you know, IO protocols, such as which I talked about it, right? And you know, it depends on the domain. You can choose the sensors from any of these, you know, any of these companies, right? So, and these sensors will vary for an industry. So medical and industrial, you can see a lot of wearables. You know, it could be your smart watches, it could be your you know, your medical devices, it could be your hearables for people who are, you know, physically, you know, challenged or mentally challenged. They have a lot of control through the, you know, voice augmented realities and much more, right? So and depends on the industry, we can choose the different sensors. So we talked about the sensors. Now the edge devices, right? So this is the kind of you know, the remote device which can interface the sensors and actuators and collect and control the data, right? So I talked about it. So these are the, you know, one example which I just took from which is ARM-based you know, processor, and you can see you know, it has its own flash memory for its firmware, and it has the memory and various you know, IO protocols for you to interface your you know, your sensors and actuators and security aspect of it, and then the connectivity side of it, right? So we generally, based on the use cases, we generally choose you know, different edge devices, you know, based on how much power it consumes, how much it can you know, from a security aspect of it. So many things which we choose, right? So this is how that sensors and actuators are interfaced to the edge devices. Now these edge devices will talk to the cloud using the you know, IoT protocols which we talked about. So sometimes these edge devices will have a Wi-Fi Bluetooth integrated, right, like this. Sometimes the Wi-Fi modules will be outside of it, depends on the cost. So in this case, it will be costlier, and in this case, it will be much more smaller because it need additional effort to integrate these two guys, right? So it depends on the, you know, use case. You can choose the hosted or hostless MCUs, which is the microcontroller units, right? So now the connectivity landscape, I did talk through a little bit about the connectivity landscape in the previous one. I also talked about the OSI layers, right? So you can see each layer, so MQTT, CoAP, all comes in a session layer. There are network layers where you have a 6LoWPAN and ThreadS, and there are a lot more protocols. And data link layer, you have a Wi-Fi, Zigbee, Bluetooth, and much more, right? So every you know, protocol, as I mentioned, one is a complexity or a power consumption. Another one is the distance. See, all of them, like you can see how I called out here. So in this case, Bluetooth, it consumes you know, less power, but it can also go only less bandwidth, right? But today there is a Bluetooth mesh topology where different Bluetooth devices can talk to each other through the mesh topology, and then it can extend the distance, like Bluetooth 5.0, 6.0, you know, those things have a, you know, Bluetooth mesh topology today. And I talked about you know, Wi-Fi and 2G, 3G, everything we are using it today. But I want to highlight here is TSN, which is a time sensitive network. Today, a lot of industry 4.0 and industrial automation, it is a time sensitive network. What is it going to do? It is going to bring in a mere real time, you know, applications, right? So TSN is already into the industry, you know, it is already in use. And many of our processes, including Intel and many companies, are started supporting the TSN protocol. So, you know, and I also talked about the 6LoWPAN, and I talked about NB-IoT, which is using the existing telecom network, but it's like in a four-way, there is a lane for your two-wheeler, right? So the same way, we use the existing infrastructure, but it consumes very less battery. The devices with the NB-IoT protocol can run for 6 years, and it can go into underground three floors. It can penetrate into underground 3 floors. Today, in our 2G, 3G is not even, getting even if you are in open space, but NB-IoT, the penetration strength is way high, right? So that's the advantage and disadvantages of different protocols, but depends on the use case. You can choose any of these protocols. And as I mentioned, if you don't have any of these connectivity, you can also go for a LoRa, which is a long range, but RF frequency, right? You don't need an internet for certain range of distance. So from a connectivity landscape perspective, I also talked about some company names in the previous slides, but you can see different, connectivities. Different companies has their own modules, and usually we integrate, into the MCUs and then build our IoT system, right? And I think you might have studied about the antennas and how each antenna design help in extending the coverage. And I mentioned about the Semtech in LoRa, and NB-IoT. There are sub-gigahertz range and NFC RFID. It's all very like. It's a near field communication. That is what NFC. So today your Google Pay and much more phone pay, everything uses the NFC and RFID, as I mentioned, in your toll gates, in your retail stores. When you purchase, you can see there are RFID tags, and every RFID tags they used in the inventory management. Like once the entire shop is closed, there are robots, automated robots, which go and do the automated inventory checking, and then it will report to this shop owner in the next day morning that, okay, these are the items which is available, right? So today, a lot of manual work has been reduced using this RFID and much more, right? So we'll talk some of the use cases in the coming slides, but these are the different, connectivity landscape where you can connect your sensors and microchips, to the cloud. I talked about Bluetooth 5.2. So there are some advantages, disadvantages. I talked about one thing, which is your Bluetooth mesh topology, right? And MQTT. So as I mentioned, Facebook Messenger uses this MQTT protocol. What is the advantage about it? So you can see there is from a structure perspective, there is a person which published. They say, for example, you are sending a message to your friend. So your friend, you are a publisher, your friend mobile phone can be a subscribe, right? So there is a broker in between. What is this broker is going to do? Whenever you send out a message, each message will have a topic. And then those topics, whoever has subscribed to that topic in the broker, they can get the message, right? That is where there are a lot of messenger applications which has the one-to-many broadcast messages. Everything is internally using these MQTT protocols. So even at the protocol level, there is a security standard. So you can see some of these different modes, the quality of service 0, quality of service 1. So different modes when we use these IoT protocols, you can enable these standards or these levels based on that. So in this case of QoS 0, it will send once and then it won't care, right? Which is what we call it as a fire and forget. Meaning I don't care whether the other guy received it or not. But so let's say if you are sending some critical medical messages or a safety critical messages, then we cannot put it like this, right? So we need to send until it has been received by the others, right? So that is what the QoS 1 talks about. There are different QoS levels. So as I mentioned, there is a security at the edge device level. There is a security at the protocol level. There is a security at the cloud level and application level, right? So that is what these things talking about it. So now, as I mentioned, now edge devices, then it's connected to the different clouds using the connectivity protocols. Now these are the top 10 cloud systems. I mean, it may vary, but I just mentioned some of the names. So a lot of these cloud systems are offering 1 year, 2 year free subscriptions. So you can set up your own, space in the Amazon AWS. You can get the ES2 service servers on your own, and you can connect your IoT devices very easily. And there are some private clouds. So what is it offering? Private clouds, right? So instead of you processing everything on the edge perspective, you can bring in the data, and then you can use this cloud. There are shared CPUs which can process it for you, or there are shared storages which can store your data, and it can expedite your your data storages rather than having your own storages at your local systems, right? And from a use cases perspective, you can see, say for example, your electricity distribution system. Today, it is many countries started using the smart grid systems to predict that, at this area, what is the distribution amount needed at this point in time. Similarly, there are smart hospitals, there are smart city everywhere, including Chennai and Coimbatore. Many metropolitan metros are today converting their cities into a smart city, and every highway become a smart highway. So name it any use case, you can find an IoT implemented, and we will be experiencing these things very soon. Okay, so these are the various applications which I can name it, and you can see there are many startups, and I just listed few startups here. So many startups are penetrating into an IoT. We can see there are many companies are wearable related. There are many companies about the connected car. I discuss about some of the use cases in the next session. Right? There are connected home where your entire things in your home can be connected, and then your healthcare is completely connected. Your heartbeat can be monitored by your doctors from anywhere. And different, you can see from a consumer, transport, healthcare, supply chain, your buildings and manufacturing, everywhere there is an IoT today. So this is where we are heading towards it, where we are going to connect each and every things around us, and everything is going to expose the data, and every data is going to be vulnerable to the security, and then every of your data is going to be easily accessible by others. It is good and bad, but we need to be very vigilant, and we need to utilize the technology as from a constructive manner, right? So some of the problems which we will discuss in the coming slides. One thing, as I mentioned, though we keep collecting the data, but only very few percentage of our data being utilized by the users. So we need to see how we can utilize this data. That is where your analytics comes in the picture. Your machine learning, your data analytics comes in picture, so that you can utilize this data very effectively. And as I mentioned, security becomes very important. And then compatibility and interoperability. What is it meaning, right? So I explain about the different components, but not every component of this IoT ecosystem can be managed or manufactured by the single company. So that is where your interoperability comes into picture, where any device, any IoT protocol, any cloud can connect to any devices. There should not be any tightly coupled systems. That is where your interoperability and compatibility comes into picture, right? So, and we need to ensure that we are delivering these use cases for a valuable outcomes, right? Rather than just for a name shake deploying the IoT solution. So overall, in general, the IoT market is going to be evergreen, and there are lot of standards and ecosystems start building very widely. And we talked about your IoT rollouts, how your OT updates can help you to keep your devices up to date, how you can manage your devices, how you can provision your devices, meaning how you can control, remove, or add devices, and depends on your use cases, how you can select the devices. Those are some of the things which I want to highlight. As a user, don't just design a product just for the purpose of showcasing something. Our solution has to solve the problem, right? So that is where you need to understand the problem. You need to be from a user perspective, how we can, design a product. Those things we'll discuss in the coming session. And security, as I mentioned, security is very important, and there is no connectivity, how we can fall back, how we can use the other protocols, right? So those are some of the things which I want to highlight in this session. Yeah, that's all I have for this session, which talks about how different components of IoT, how we can interface these IoT components together with the various stages of it. Any questions, I'll be happy to address.
Muras, there is a separate interaction session will be available at the third one. So better we can go for a short break, and we can connect. Better. You can take 10 minutes break, Muras. After that, you can connect. I request all the participants, you can stay connected, because once you drop the connection and again you are making it so difficult. So better you can have a 10 minutes break, and after that you can stay connected. Thank you. Thank you, Muras.
Sure. Thank you.
Right, sir. Thank you. We'll connect back after 10 minutes.
Sure.
Sir, shall we start?
Yeah. Yeah, we can start.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome back everyone, and yeah, continuing our session. Yeah, so in this session, we'll talk about our product development, how the industry operates in terms of new product development, what are the different strategies which we follow, and maybe I will use IoT, right? From an IoT context, how every product is being approached, how we develop, what are the different flaws and improvements what we have done. I will go through a lot of examples which are real time, and a lot of these products has been deployed into various countries and companies. I'll go through those use cases so that it gives you little bit idea about what are the different enterprise level products today being used in the industry, right? Okay, so how do we build our own products, right? When I say product, it is not that easy, right? Meaning it is an iteration of some solutions which we are going to give it to some users. So in general, your products is for some user problems. It should solve your problems. It is not, I mean, some products might be for the purpose of value add, but majorly when the product is getting hit is when it solves the actual problem or a problem for many user, common user problems, right? So, so in general, from a development process flow on a high level, right? So we get the product, problem statement. We understand what is the, hypothesis, and then you try to discuss and understand which direction I want to go, how to develop this, what are the different components, which component will suit here for the different market segment. Those decision making things will happen. Then we create some of the prototypes. So there are different ways, different design thinking process, different strategies being applied. So one of the things are today in the modern world, we call it as the lean startup. So lean startup method, we call this as a minimum viable concept, MVC, right? And then whenever that concept is kind of materializes, that is going to be developed as a minimum viable product, right? So what is the difference between POC, which is proof of concept, and the minimum viable product? Is proof of concept is going to prove something. It may or may not be a workable version. Say, for example, you are driving a car. If your POC is about taking some wood and then making it in a circle, that is to prove that okay, he or she or this company can design a circle in a wood. It is not going to serve any functionality or any minimum functionality of your car, right? So MVP, which is a minimum viable product, is kind of in this example, if your MVP is about having two wheels connected with one axis, and then when the user when the user pushes, it moves. So it's a minimal version of your product, which is working condition, right? So that you can share it to your users, or you can share it to your customers, and then evaluate, get the feedback, validate it, meaning keep communicating to the users, keep communicating to the end customers, and then validate their experience. That is very important, right? Let's say some companies are selling a product, but it is not being, followed up. If you are not getting the feedback, how do we know what is the failure, what is the success, or what changes needed, what irritates the user? You will not know, right? So we need to get those feedbacks and then validate it, and then keep repeating the cycle, right? Keep repeating, keep incorporating those feedbacks. What is it coming from your MEP, and then productize finally when you address all the user feedbacks and problems, right? So that is where, these are the very high level, steps what we follow in a product development process flow. So in this case, we need to ensure that we are designing a right product with a correct, architecture, which has a scalability purpose, right? Which means today I can develop a product, but that has to be reusable component, that has to be, deployed in thousands of millions of users. Then only it is going to be benefit for the company, right? So for that, you should have a wide industry experience. And so once you design a product on a paper or on a simulation models, then we start developing. From a development perspective, there will be a prototyping phase to the productization, what I mentioned about here, right? And for that, our developers or validation engineers should have a different knowledge and expertise for various tools and skills, right? And then when we develop, it is not necessarily everything this company or this student has to develop end to end, right? We can use some third-party components. We can integrate that, right? That is where the verifiable interfaces comes into picture. What does that mean, right? When I develop a product and then I'm giving it to, say, for example, Facebook as a company, it acquired a WhatsApp for $1 billion. Why? How they integrated their WhatsApp into a Facebook? Today, if you discuss something in your WhatsApp, the corresponding advertisement you can see in a Facebook. How is it possible? So they are exposing all your data to the search engines, right? Today you talk something, with your microphone enabled, it will immediately reflect in your browsers. You will see the corresponding advertisements in your social media platforms. So there is a reason that, those components, those are different third-party elements, put together and then getting integrated and bring in a customized feeds for users, right? So that's the era where we are living in, where many startups, as I exposed there in the previous session, many startups building their products, and then many enterprises, they keep integrating those components and then creating an enterprise level applications. So when we are integrating, then it has to be easily integratable. It has to be easily verifiable, saying that, okay, this is the problem with this module, not the module previously, or not the module which comes after that, right? So we need to be able to differentiate by using the correct debug approaches. And then once you design, develop, integrate, and deploy it, now how can we provide a support? Because as a user, every user today needs a support. Every user needs a solution immediately for the problem what they are facing. So you need to provide a right support. So these are the end-to-end stages or blocks of product development life cycle, which I can share it from my perspective. And then in this life cycle, of course, security. I always concern about security. Security, it plays very important role in every. Yeah, security plays very important role in any product development. And then analytics, getting the feedback, and integrate it back, right? So that is what the analytics talking about. So this is talking about the different process flows. This is talking about different stages in which we can deliver our products to our customers. Now, I mean, little more similar, things which I explained, but little more insights here. I will go through it, in a different context, right? So, when we directly jump into some direct prototypes, it is going to be very, very minimum, from a scalability perspective, meaning your prototypes can solve certain problems, but it may not be attracting wider audience, right? So if there are situations in which even the restaurant companies today, they do a lot of analysis and design thinking before they actually go into a market. So most of your problems can be addressed, problems can be modeled using your creative thinking or a better design thinking before you actually spending your money into an implementation, right? So you potentially need to do, you're uncovering opportunities. That becomes very important. And then you create a concept, which I explained, minimum viable concept, and validate those ideas. If you have hundreds of thousands of ideas, maybe one or two will be worth of $1 million, $1 billion. So validate your ideas and put into some of the incubations where you keep discussing, thinking, massaging about your ideas and see whether it will work or not. Do the research, what kind of a products available in the market, what kind of a flaws which a previous generation faced using this product. Many things we can, and then we validate your concept, validate your prototype, and then bring it to a live market and launch it. Once you launch it, getting the feedback, supporting the customers becomes very important, right? So there's a continuous process, and these are the different drivers components, right? That's a nutshell about a product development life cycle. Now, so we keep telling that, okay, we need to find out the problem. Problem needs to be evaluated, but how can we do that effectively? What are the different strategies which we follow? So that is where your majority of your effort should go here in defining or redefining your problems, problem finding, right? So that starts from a problem statement. List out the problem statement, and find out what are those anchor components of this problem, right? When I say anchor component, if your lights are not running in your home, yes, that's a problem statement, but it is a bulb, or it is a current, or it is something else, that depends on the problem. So for your problem, build a hypothesis first. What could be the reason? That is what your hypothesis is going to be. In order to solve this hypothesis, what should I do? What should I do? Right? So then do the design, which is for this hypothesis, and do the analyze your data, repeat it, right? Until you find the right hypothesis, until you find the right design, keep repeating, right? And then that is what your problem finding, right? Are we on track to find the right problem statement, right? And then the second phase comes in solving that problem, right? Once you find the problem, it is very easy to solve the problem, but finding that right problem is the biggest strength, right? And making sure that once you find the problem, then define a spec, which is specification. Okay, it has to be this much height, this much width, and design it for that, and code, and all those things becomes very, very easy today. A lot of machines can code for us today. And then once you define it, even in this process, your design can be wrong, your code can be wrong, your spec can be wrong. So bring it back, so that you can make it correct. Even in this case, if you find that when I solve the problem, if I find that the problem statement is not a correct one, then repeat it, right? And then the second one, once you have a problem statement, then it's how to sell it. So when you sell it, as I mentioned, you launch it as soon as possible with a MVP, and then you keep evaluating, you keep accommodating those changes, and then launch as a beta or launch it as a final product, and then adapt it from a user feedbacks and change the problem statements if needed. And we need to keep communicating. That is important, both internal and external teams, right? Because if design team is not communicating to the coding team, then there will be a disconnect there. You will not be getting your end product with the right order, right? So these are some of the very basic, fundamental to develop your product, to design your products, right? So when you follow these approaches, now in this case, I just brought in simple example of smart city and smart buildings. Imagine a situation when you are entering into a big complex or your college, where in your gate, if there is a camera system which can detect your number plate, or there can be a camera which can do a facial recognition, or it can access your RFID tag installed here. It can be anything, right? Your gate should be open automatically by doing any of these validation. And then once you enter, you pass through certain street lights or lights in your campus, it should be energy saving, meaning by default it can be off. Whenever the car approaches this light, the lights can be switched on. Whenever the car pass by, the lights can be switched off, right? And then your buildings can be with a smart parking. Your parking, you can book your parking well advanced. When you start from your home, you can log into your parking application and then find out which parking is empty. You can book it, right? Even in your shopping malls, even in your big functions, where your cricket stadiums, everywhere you can book your seats, you can book your parking. It is easy today in the developed nations. Finding a parking becomes very, 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 very tough job. Even though I'm ready to pay for big money, but I'm not finding a parking. Without finding a parking, I'm wasting a fuel, I'm wasting my time, I'm wasting others' time, I'm getting irritated, I'm facing some mental illness and many things being integrated into it. And then your buildings can be your smart surveillance system, your waste management, right? Today, let's say there is a Olympiad happening in Chennai or a few other cities. There are major sports events are happening. So those places, your waste collections can be done automatically if you have a smart waste management. So I'll go through those use cases in the coming slides one by one. So how these products, using the concept which I explained earlier, is how these products we developed, how we deployed it, and then what are the different components and protocols used from the IoT, which I mentioned, right? So I just talked about a smart parking solution where every user spending average of certain amount of minutes in a day, for searching for a traffic, for searching for a parking. So in this case, as I mentioned, every parking slot, we have installed a magnetic sensor. So that sensor, whenever the car is parked, that sensor will occupy the parking, and then it will update the parking spaces in the map. So as a user, whenever I log in, it will do the live streaming or live information about the parking lot availability, and that is using the magnetic sensor, right? So in this case, we have used LoRa because there may be a connectivity issues when we use the 3G, 4G. There may be a remote places in which we want to track the parking. So, IoT protocol can be anything, but in this case, we have used LoRa, and we have used LoRa for the purpose of storing because we have installed the sensor underneath the road. So we cannot keep digging the roads every time. So it needs to be for 6 years minimum. So that's the main reason that we have chosen those sensors and then those protocols. So in this case, we save a lot of time and effort for the users, right? And You go a little more into waste management, as I mentioned. So you can install some of the ultrasonic sensors or the weight sensor or some smell sensors. Any sensors can be used in this solution. We have used only the ultrasonic sensor to find out the level of the garbage. So in this case, once the dustbin is full, it will immediately alert the waste management or a municipality. Or in the other case, let's say the municipality van goes and collects in different streets in the city. Today, those collection agents are going every street and checking every waste bin. So if you install the entire smart waste management sensors in the waste bins, what they can do, they don't need to go and check everything. It will immediately integrate in their map, and it will tell that you go to street 5, you go to C7, you go to street 12. That's more than enough to cover your waste collections, rather than going and checking every waste bin, right? So depends on the use cases. You can change the sensor. You can, there are situations in Kerala and many other states. We have utilized 360-degree view cameras, and through that we have did the image processing to detect the waste level and then inform the collection agents. Right? So since we talk more on the smart city, we can talk many use cases. I want to take one healthcare remote monitoring application, what we have developed for Singapore government, right? So in this case, I can also show you one of the video in the later, but on the high level, right? So from the moment where a user has been identified for a particular illness, so that is called the pre-checkup, right, or pre-operation, and then they decided to do some operation. So today's healthcare monitoring system, well advanced through the electronic based data, which is EMR data, right? So every electronic medical records of a patient is available to the doctors across the globe, right? Meaning, if I go for a pre-checkup, pre-procedure monitoring, all my data are already uploaded. And then any hospital, will have my pre-operation data. So during the surgery, I'm collecting the data. And then again, that is all integrated into a EMR. And, once I discharge, I keep collecting the data through the wearables, through the, bed monitoring solutions. And then once I discharge, sorry, once I get discharged from hospital, there also, I keep collecting the data. And then once I discharge and go to our house, there also we can do this continuous monitoring, so that we can have a end-to-end visibility of the user or a patient, all integrated into a EMR. And then you can run a lot of algorithms to analyze this data and provide a correct feedback to the home nurse or to your caretakers in your home. This is the end-to-end healthcare monitoring solution what we have implemented for a Singapore government. And once you have this data, all your pharmacies can use this data for you to get the medicines delivered. All your so you can see here how it can help. So you are collecting all your data through the monitoring devices, then collecting some of the through some of the IoT devices, then apply the machine learning algorithm, and then give it to or give the different dashboard for the doctor, different dashboard for the home nurse, different for your parents or for your caregivers in your home, and then use the telemedicine platform to so that the pharmacies can deliver your medicines here, right? So in this case, we use a different devices in a different stages, but nutshell, any device, including your cell phones, as I mentioned, it can operate as a sensor for you. right? And through this, we can provide a 24/7 monitoring, right? So that is what we have done. How we design this product, how we, what are the different layers, you can see here. So from a hardware perspective, I have explained in detail the same logic we have utilized, but this is more of an enterprise application level, right? How my enterprise application we have built. So you can see, in order for you to collect different IoT devices, it can be from EMR data, from your previous checkups, it can be your current, X-rays, and even the insurance claims. Your previous claims can give me a data, right? And then your physician inputs, your caregiver input, your own IoT data, your own mobile device data. So some things are pre-procedural monitoring data, something are during the hospital, how I can collect everything, being collected. And then, I infer using certain plans, through the algorithms. And then I give the data to the different people for a different dashboard. And so that I can monitor, I can provide a best healthcare in the world, right? So this is what we have done. And I'll show you little bit of video. My screen. Is audio coming?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sure. Yeah, let me play the video first.
Now, are you asking about some video, sir, or multimedia content?
Yeah, I'm playing video with audio. Is it visible or no?
No, sir. No, we couldn't see
okay,
that.
okay. Give me a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you should hear. Yeah, let me.
Perfect, sir. We could hear.
And one aspect of life which IT can make a big difference to is looking after old people. Many of us have elderly parents to take care of, and we worry for their health, we worry for their safety. We are afraid if something happens to them, they fall down or they get ill. We may not know. And they have family, but the family are not living in the same household with them. So we need to do something to solve this problem. Work together to transform our future together. When programmers build apps which help a community to bond with one another. When neighbors step up to check on their own neighbors through smart elderly monitoring system. This is our country. This is our future. Come together, design the solutions, test the ideas, give us the feedback, imagine it, let's decide on it, let's make it happen.
Yeah, so that was the solution what we developed for a Singapore government Smart Nation initiative, and that the device what was shown, it was from one of the startup company in India, and we integrated from Malaysia, and then we deployed it in Singapore. So you can imagine how those product development goes. It is very dynamic, and that's a nutshell about what is happening in the industry today, together how we can solve certain big critical problems. So if I go further, some of the other use cases, again, this is also about one of the safety, in the airports or in some of the construction environments where we have designed a wearable device like this, right? We have a smart device which has the which will tell which floor a worker is in, right? And if there is an emergency, a worker can press this yellow button. It will immediately connect to the site supervisor, right, through the LoRa. And the employee or a worker no need to do any check-in, check-out, because through this device, Bluetooth, we can easily trace them which floor they are in, which altitude they are in, and and integrate along with the sensors, integrate with the 360-degree cameras. We can identify if there is any wet field, if there is any slippery environments. Everything can be monitored, and it can be immediately alerted to the person who is in charge of that flow, right? So these are some of the examples, but you can see how we design, right? You can see this is a sensor layer where we integrate different sensors. The sensors can be, through camera or devices or some other readers. And then there is a cloud layer, how all these data collected in these devices can be utilized from a cloud perspective, and then how it is actually interacting with the end use cases, right? So that is the, that's the point which I want to make here. Say, for example, this we developed for a Bangladesh government, where everywhere we can see a lot of flyovers and bridges. Now, in this case, it was a steel bridge. They want to monitor, because anytime depends on the balance of weight, or depends on the number of years this bridge has been. So they want to keep monitoring the bridge health. That is what it is called, bridge monitoring solution. So what we have done, we have hired a structural engineer, civil engineer, basically, to understand how can I measure the tilt of it, how can I measure the displacement, right? And because we are not a civil engineers, but we are electronics engineers. So in this case, I need to choose the right sensor, to measure the tilt and displacement, or the weighing sensor using the strain gauge. So we have studied those parameters along with the structural engineer, and then we chosen the sensors and we implemented as a POC. And all these data we have collected through the LoRa, because once we install, we want the sensor to be in function for many years, right? We collected through LoRa, and then in one place we connected our 4G gateway, where that will push into our partner cloud. Even though we had our own cloud, in this case we used Oracle Cloud. So it shows how heterogeneous in terms of the solutions, right? And then through that we do some analysis and get the data crunching done. And through the data what we being displayed, we can easily find out if there is any anomaly, right? So we applied some machine learning algorithm in this visualization to find out if there is any anomaly from the original behavior of this bridge, right? You can see how it can be used from an environmental perspective, how from the civil structural perspective, how it can be used for a healthcare functionality. I can extend these kind of use cases for many. Right? So in this case, it's very interesting use case. We call it as the V2X, vehicle to anything. So from a connected car perspective, many companies today, including Ola and many companies in in India also, they are building it. But it is to, let's say, V2X is a DSRC, which is a short range communication protocol. In this case, if two cars has this V2X implemented, right, these two cars can talk each other. Say, for example, when there is an accident in front of you, these two cars can immediately inform these two guys or cars behind them, so that they can slow down or they can take a diversion instead of waiting in the traffic, right? So it is going to be very much useful in India and many countries. And today it is being already in testing in Germany and US and many countries, right? So not only for that purpose, because it's a vehicle to anything. So the vehicle to vehicle can talk, vehicle to anything. So imagine a use case that, okay, there is no traffic. You are coming in 80 km/h speed, and there is a traffic light, and there is no other traffic in the night, and your traffic light can talk to your car, and it can open your traffic light for you. Or there is an ambulance, and all your traffic lights can be open because your traffic light can talk to your car and understand that, okay, this is an ambulance, and I want to give a way for this ambulance, and it can allow you to pass by very easily. Or your lights can talk to your car. Or say, for example, you are going for a dinner with your family, and then you want to find out any good vegetarian restaurants nearby. Your car can talk to nearby vegetarian restaurants and identify which restaurant has the tables free, because all those tables can be used with the IoT sensors to find out the vacant space. You can book your table. You don't need to go wait there and book it. So all things are very much possible today, right? So that is what it is called, V2X, right? And many companies, as I mentioned, this is a big ecosystem, and many companies are already in the testing phase, right? Including Intel and companies like Tesla and many companies. And I can extend similar one, like the smart farming, a farming system perspective, how you can measure your soil moisture level, how you can measure your water level, and how you can control all these parameters, your temperature, humidity, and water irrigation systems through your mobile apps and based on the sensors. And a lot of horticulture, like your light controlled plant growing, right? And that is very much feasible today, because not only sunlight can give you those starch and necessary things. That is what the research is saying today. Your lights can be controlled through your IoT applications, right? And this one I was explaining that how worker safety application can handle it, because in this case we also integrated those devices in the helmet, so that there is a panic, it can immediately alert, and similar to the one which I explained in the previous slide, right? And this is another interesting use case. Say, for example, I'm a farmer, and then today, many developed nations, labor, including India, right? Finding a labor is the biggest problem. Now, say, for example, there are thousands of containers in the port, and there's no worker to unload it. Then most of your goods can go bad. On the reverse, let's say I have thousands of workers waiting, but none of my containers has reached. In that case, your worker bandwidth is wasted. At any point in time, how we can plan these workforce efficiently, right? How we can connect your containers or your receiving ports with your workers effectively, right? So in this case, what we have done is, say for example, I'm a strawberry farm owner, and then I have thousands of kgs of strawberries, going into shipment. It can be a roadway, it can be a ship, whatever it is, right? So if I need to maintain a temperature on a particular level, right? If not, my strawberries are going to be wasted. So how can I know? So I can install a temperature sensors, I can install a humidity sensors, I can also install a position sensor to find out if my strawberries are maintaining a correct temperature inside the container. So when there is a transit going on, if for some reason the sensor is or your cooling system is not working, and then next 40 hours or next 20 hours, if the strawberries are not consumed, then complete 1000 kgs or strawberries are going to be wasted. If that is the situation, then how can I reroute? If I have a real-time visibility of the temperature inside my container, then I can easily, reroute my shipment to the nearby consumers, so that even if I sell for a half price, it's a value for me, right? So that is one of the use cases. And second thing is, as I mentioned, your workers can be planned for loading and unloading properly, right? When let's say 50 kilometers away, if I know my container will be reaching in another 2 hours, then I can immediately plan the resources properly. Or let's say even one day before. So I can customize my alert. Like if my shipment is going to take 20 days, then give me an alert every day. If it is going to reach in 2 days time, give me an alert every 4 hours, so that I can know the real-time data, and then I can plan my workforce accordingly. Today, this is being used in Walmart and many companies in the US, I know, for the real-time visibility of your shipments. So fleet management can be very, very effective in this case, right? So much more, many use cases I can find out. But in general, whatever I talked about is different ways and strategies, right? But then when we do the actual development, what happens? What are those different development environments, right? So many companies, in this case, I took an example of NXP because they provide a lot of free tools for you to develop. So in this case, I want to develop a firmware for my microcontroller, because firmware is my edge device, right? And then how can I connect protocols, right? So how can I, from a sensors perspective, how can I interface? So various interfaces provided in this case, right? And as I mentioned, this is one of the free device management protocol, a device management portal what NXP is providing. So we can easily give it to students, and students can explore very wisely and then use it in their site, right? Even we do had our own platform, in this case, many of our, in my previous company, we have provided our platform for many students for them to use it, right? So you can see those platforms. Many of the prototypes, demo projects are there for the students or any person who want to explore. They can easily get those integrated devices like this, and then they can use this development environment for them to validate and experience it, right? And those are some of the examples which I want to highlight. So in general, everywhere fuel and energy is going to be a huge flaw. So how can we making sure that we can have a energy conservative devices, right? How do we ensure that we have a security protocols wisely implemented, because we are exposing a lot of data? How can we bring in more and more real time, like a time sensitive network, what I find it out? These are the major areas where a lot of focus will be in the upcoming years, and most of your general framework is going to remain same, right? And you can see, take your house. In your house, what all the things can be automated today? What all the things can be connected to IoT? How can we make your life smart, right? Say, for example, I have an elder who need a remote monitoring facility. If nobody is there in the house, how can I detect if there is some emergency for them, right? So through the machine learning, you can see there is a fault detection, even for Google Asset, right? So there can be a device attached in your TV, and then that can keep monitoring your elderly people. If there is any fall, they can immediately detect and inform, right? And today, even in my house, I have connected all my lights and TV, everything to my voice connected devices like Alexa, right? So wherever, even through my mobile app, I can control my my lights and TV and many other components, and I can schedule it. Say, for example, evening 6 o'clock, switch on my lights, and night 9:30, because when we are sleeping, you switch off all the lights. I mean, examples I'm saying. Your weighing scale can be very smart. You can detect the people people in our house, their motions, and then they can control all your fan and other things through this. And your water leakage, your gas and smoke, what you name it, anything can be controlled through, right? So with these sensors integrated into your house, you can provide your 24/7 call center activation if there is any help needed for your elderly people or for you itself, right? So that is how the life is going to be, right? So it is not to make you lazy, but it is to give you a better lifestyle with a minimal energy spent from you, right? So that's the idea. But the use cases are endless, and there are various development keep happening in the industry today. I just want to make sure that we are all up to date what is happening in the industry, how we can make use of the available technology for the betterment of our life. Right? Yeah, and I have given some of the links also for easy reference, right? It will help you to read and study a little more deep detail, right? So so IoT along with some machine learning and AI, it is going to rule the world. Right? It will create n number of new opportunities, and definitely our life become much more powerful than today. Yeah, thank you. That's all I have for this session.
Thank you, sir. That was incredible. Now I request the participants to please ask questions, interact with our resource person.
Sure.
Requesting participants who have doubts, please raise your hand so that we'll unmute you.
Muras, I can have one quick question. Can you say some more information about node devices?
Okay, so the node devices, what I was referring to, the edge devices, right? So edge devices are nothing but the device which interacts with the environment. I'm sorry, I think somebody muted. So the edge devices are nothing but the devices which interact with the environment or with the actual human, right? So where when I say actual human, so maybe for us to sense some of the our body temperature or the face detection, many things, right? The edge devices are very much powerful today. Even Intel, like you can see Gaudi, Gaudi, you can search in internet. So what industry is doing today is they are shifting, instead of maintaining most of my a processing capability in the cloud, why can't I shift everything to the edge? Or why can't I create a localized edge, localized cloud platform, so that you don't need to transfer most of your data through the big network and then process it remotely, then bring back. So that is going to add more delay. Right? Today, processors are very powerful, including the one which I pointed out, Gaudi, Gaudi. Intel has it, NVIDIA has many processors such that, they are bringing in processing capability on the edge, wherein we can immediately process it as soon as you consume it from an environment or from a users, then send only the necessary data or the data with some insights, give it to cloud and do further analysis, right? So that you don't mess up the complete network with the junk data, right? So that is what happening in the industry today. Hope I answered your question, Prem.
Thank you, Muras. One more quick question.
Yeah.
Which programming language we can refer to students for developing the prototypes?
Yeah, as I mentioned, right? So it varies. So let's say if somebody is interested in terms of mobile app or web app, those things are definitely, we need a HTML or we need a .NET or Java, some of the web applications interfaces, right? If you are interested in terms of firmware development, right, that is on the edge devices, then definitely it is C or C++, or assembly programming. So it depends on the interest of the person. I'm very much interested in terms of my embedded system. So I focus more on my C, C++. Somebody, let's say I want to develop some cloud system. So it might need some Python or R or some data analytics. You can follow some of these languages. It depends on the, the area or I explained about the different components, right? So different components uses the different programming. So based on my strengths or based on my interest, I can choose those programming languages. It is not necessary that one person should have an entire programming languages. And once you learn one programming language, it is going to be very, very easy to learn the other programming.
Thank you, Muras.
Sorry to interrupt. Before we proceed with the Q&A, requesting the participants to please post your registration ID and your name as you have in your display name. Please post that in the chat box. Thank you.
Anyone has any other question?
Kaushal sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Shall I ask one doubt?
Yes,
yes,
please.
please go ahead.
Sir, I'm Nisha, assistant professor from SciTech. My question is about its IoT is a booming technology. So when we are interfacing with RFID, mainly the RF sensors, we are making like a membrane-based RF sensors, like a very thin with the IoT. What are the difficulties and then how we are interfacing the technologies?
Yeah. I mean, to answer your first question, definitely it is a booming technology since 1999, right? And when many people are, coming to know in recent years. So as I mentioned, every industry is going to utilize the IoT as one of the component and interface with many other technologies so that you can create a different enterprise level use cases, right? That is the first part of your question. So no doubt about it. The second one, RFID. Yes, you are right that there are different types of RFIDs. So you can say there are active RFIDs, there are passive RFIDs, there are RFIDs with a battery installed, there are RFIDs which generates it creates energy on its own, right? There are different kinds of RFIDs. One such kind is you talked about the membrane ones. Say we did face some challenges, as I mentioned, in Walmart when we were bringing up the container use case, which I was explaining. So where any RF signal might have a challenge in terms of penetrating a steel, when container has a high steel, so where it cannot penetrate. And what we did, we find some alternate method. How can I read it inside a container and then stream it back, right? And now RFID is not the only sensor, right? So RFID, it will be very much useful in terms of some open space. And so it depends on the use cases. You can choose the different protocols, like, as I mentioned, Zigbee or, and in the case of warehouse management, RFID is very much useful, right? There will be a different readers. So when you face such challenges, you can also tweak your readers. Some of the readers are very much sensitive to read, even if it is a longer distance, right? There are different reader providers available in the market, right? Infringe is one of the company which provides a very highly sensible readers. Today, most of the warehouse and inventory management uses the robots. That robot has the RFID readers. It will keep on moving in the night, right? With a guided path, or even autonomous robots. They can keep moving and find out what is the inventory today. I mean, it can even find out if there is any missing items. If somebody is not accounting some of the things, it can easily measure it, right? So those are some of the techniques which we can tweak, even though it has some challenges. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for this.
Any other queries, please?
Sir, good evening, sir. I have few questions.
Yes, ma'am.
I am Priya, working as a professor in EC department. And I want to know the difference between the POC and MVP. You said in the product development, no, I can't understand that POC, or which products you will do POC and which type of products you will do MVP.
Okay, so there is no such definition that where I will do a POC, where I will do a MVP. First, I will explain these two are different development strategies. That's all, right? Meaning, when we go for a lean startup method, so those are different. Like you can reach a certain place in multiple ways. You can reach by two-wheeler, you can reach by bus, you can reach by flight. So these are different ways to reach it. One way will have advantage, another way will have a disadvantage and alternative, right? So in the modern era, where the development was in the old era, where the development was kind of a sequencing. There was no agile method followed. There was no parallel teams for you to do the design validation, right? So today everything become an agile, where in agile, every team is functional at a given point in time. Earlier, they used to do the design, then do the development. Then once you complete every development, then go to the validation. So in that era, the POC was very much useful, because I completed my design, then I create a POC. POC, I come to the difference in a while, but I just want to give you these two are different strategies. In terms of lean startup, which is one of the strategies, one of the method in which a modern era is operating, where they want to fail faster, right? If this functionality is not working, I want to move to the next one, next problem statement. I want to approach the next solution, right? So that is where they are calling it as a fail fast. In the old way, I complete my entire design. Let's say I spend 4 months, and then I complete my entire coding, another 4 months. Then I validate. When I validate, if I came to know that this is not working or this is not solving my problem, then my 4 months plus 4 months plus 2 months gone. 10 months is gone, right? I'm going to waste my energy here. So in the case of lean startup, everything happens in parallel. You are giving one piece of working solution to the user, which user is going to really experience at a real use case, right? Say for example, I want a car. In the same example I'm taking, I want a car. In a POC scenario, they may build only one portion of one critical engine alone. They might build the engine alone, but that is not the actual product, or it is not the minimum product, right? So in the case of MVP, what we will do, okay, same example, car. I design a car without, let's say, audio system, without a roof, without a but it has the basic functionality. It can still ride. The user can still go and test it. It is the minimum working solution. It is an actual working solution with a minimum functionality. That is why it is called MVP, minimum viable product, MVC, minimum viable concept. right? So in this case, you can get the feedback from the users that whether it is working or not. Then you can add additional feature. In next 2 weeks, you can add additional feature. So you can imagine iPhones. Everybody is using mobile phones today. Many mobile phone companies, they will have a hardware already in your mobile, right? But that may not be doing anything today. After 6 months, they will release the software update. In that, they enable that hardware and do the functionality for you, which means the first version they released to you in order to attract the market, it was MVP. MVP had the other components inside, but it was not giving you a actual solution or actual use case. Then they have a control to push the another software, for you to utilize it. So that becomes the end-to-end complete product, right? Hope you understand what I was trying to say.
Now I can understand easily. Yeah. And regarding that health monitoring system, sir, you have designed for Singapore hospitals.
Yes. Yeah.
Is there any smart healthcare system in India?
So India, I think what I remember, the EMR itself is the biggest challenge. So today you are going to a hospital. Is your doctor, feeding in data? Maybe today some multi-specialty hospital, they are feeding in a data and they are storing it in their server. They won't give it to the government or they don't give it to the outside people, right? Even if you want for a report, you need to beg for them like us, right? like anything, right? So today in challenge in India is first the government is trying to implement the EMR first, the electronically managed data or electronic medical records. That is what the EMR data. Government has, I think, proposed some approaches, but it is an ecosystem, right? Meaning every hospital, every doctor should push the data back to this EMR record so that the other doctor can utilize it. So what I remember, I may be wrong, but what I remember is Indian government is trying to implement the EMR first. Then only we can bring in all those things from utilizing the EMR data. Otherwise, it's of no use actually. The other countries like Singapore, they already have the kind of working solution of EMR data.
Okay, sir. Sir, in that you said the pre-procedures. That pre-procedure, if the patient goes to that node and give the pre-procedure, means that basic temperature, blood pressure, glucose level, everything will be recorded. And it will be sent to the particular hospital or it can be referred by all the doctors connected to that.
Yeah, so the EMR data is similar to, let's say, your IRCTC or your flight booking, right? Or your counseling data, right? Meaning, yeah, there is an API where anybody can go and use that API to get the data, right? So what the government insisting in the other countries is whatever data which doctor is collecting from you or doctor is measuring from you or whatever data which you are telling and then doctor is feeding into a system, everything is available in the common database maintained by the government, right? It will be pushed into a common database. So let's say the pre-procedure data, what I pointed out, it's not only a basic temperature and other things. Pre-procedure is like, let's say you will go to one doctor and then do some basic, you might have went for some other disease, but they might have diagnosed something else. So immediately what you will do, you will get panic. You will say, oh, I will get a second opinion from my other doctor. For that, you need a record from the doctor. But today in India, it may be hard for you to get that, right? But the other countries, what they are doing, they are pushing all the data. You can go to Dr. X today, and then whatever he checked, he push everything into a EMR. And then you might go to Dr. Y tomorrow, and then he can give your Aadhaar ID. There's a unique ID. You enter into that unique ID, you will get all the data about your checkups from your previous doctor. So same goes to different scenarios. So your pre-procedural data is, say, for example, you might do some operation with a Dr. A. In this case, your X and Y doctor inputs already there in the EMR data, so that it will be very much useful for your Dr. A. He is a specialist in particular operation, and he can do the operation for us, right? So that is how it is. It is kind of a democratized. So your data is already available, but it is not available to everybody. Maybe only available to the doctors and hospitals, so that it is used sensibly, right? Otherwise, somebody might misuse the data.
Okay, sir. Okay, well said. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you.
Your presentation is very nice about that healthcare system and product development and connected car and smart farming. Everything is very wonderful explanation, sir. We gained a lot of knowledge from your presentation. Thank you, sir.
Sure. Thank you. Any other question, anybody?
Please go for vote of thanks.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Before that, I request all the participants, those who have not yet responded in the chat box, please do respond with your registration ID and name, as this will be considered for your attendance. Only if you have responded, remaining also, please do respond before the close of this session. Now I request my colleague, Ms. Nisha Priyadarshini, madam, to please proceed with the vote of thanks.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. On the behalf of Siddharth Institute of Engineering and Technology and Atal FDP IOT driven wearable devices for healthcare and defense applications, my deepest gratitude to our resource person, Mr. Murasoliselvan Karunanidhi, sir, for making us about the IoT technology. First of all, I thank you, sir, for your valuable time to give us. Mainly, the IoT technology is quite vast, and then evergreen technology. You cover the session with the mind-blowing explanation about mainly what is the ecosystem and then background and then IoT examples around us and then the elements of IoT and then interfacing techniques and future trends. And then your examples, the first examples, it's about the toothbrush with glucose levels and all. It's mind-blowing and it's interesting to learn more about this. And then we are expecting the more this like the interactive session in future also, sir. Thank you for your support. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for giving the opportunity. Keep learning.
I'd like to add to that, sir, with your permission.
Sure.
Special thanks to you. Hats off to you, sir, for your passion, dedication. Prem sir was telling me in between during the break that your health is not good in the recent times.
Yeah.
And we strongly wish for your speedy recovery, sir. Really, hats off to you for your passion, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Presenting this much awesome. And we've been listening to you in different sessions.
Thank you.
You're a master. You're a true master. That says it all.
Pleasure. Yeah. Thank you. Take care.
You too, sir. Take care. Take care. Prem sir, shall we close the session?
Yes, doctor, please close the session. Thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you.
Pleasure is mine, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Kosal, for giving this kind of opportunity. It's a wonderful session. I'm very well thankful, sir. It's a nice session for you. You've given lots of explanation of this session. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Kosal. Thank you, Prem, sir.
Thank you.
Participants will be closing the session in a minute. Those who have not yet posted your attendance in the chat box, please do it immediately. Thank you.